to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Tuesday, January 28th. Yes, I had to check the date. I forgot real quick. It's on this Tuesday, January 28th. I'm your host, Michael Leva, flying solo tonight, as we got some news to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins, as they have hired a new special teams coordinator, Craig Aukerman. And we're going to talk about his history, his past, this hire, whether Dolphins fans should be excited, not so excited, and just talk all things special teams on today's show, a one-topic show, talking Craig Aukerman, as we get to know him a little bit here, as he will be leading Miami special teams in 2025. But before we get to that, a quick word from our sponsor.
The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com.
All right. And also, if you're not a member, how come you're not? Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. $3 a month. Dolphins Talk Extra. Bonus podcast about the Dolphins and not about the Dolphins. We have weekly shows on college football, pro wrestling, music, television, and more to come. We have a private message board where people can interact there. It's a little bit of more of a safe space than Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. We have contest where we give away Miami Dolphins autographs and collectibles and stuff like that. Stuff like, if you're watching on YouTube, what you see behind me. So go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Dolphins Talk Extra, $3 a month. Check it out. All right. So the Miami Dolphins made the hire to replace Danny Crossman today with Craig Aukerman as their new special teams coordinator. And here's the deal. Before we get into this, because I saw fans on social media, arguing over special teams coordinator hire. And, some people have positive thoughts. Some people have negative thoughts. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And there's a lot to unpack here. Here's the deal. We're all rooting for Craig Aukerman to have success here in the Dolphins and have the Miami Dolphins be the best special teams unit in the NFL. That's what we're all rooting for and hoping for. But when talking about his history, his time in Tennessee, his time with the Chargers as a special teams coordinator, it is what it is. The numbers are the numbers. And, we're going to go over it. And some of it might not be glowing. That doesn't mean we're like crapping on the hire or saying this guy's got no chance. We're just going over this, breaking this down, and showing you things from all angles. So before fans get into their feelings, I just want to say that from the top, because there is a lot to unpack here. And I know a lot of fans of the Dolphins had their hopes set on the organization hiring a highly regarded, top-notch special teams coordinator. And as much as we're all rooting for Craig Aukerman, that's really not the case here. Craig Aukerman was fired in 2023, in season in 2023, by the Tennessee Titans. It was the first assistant coach Mike Vrabel has fired in season in his career as a head coach. And he was out of the NFL all of 2024. Now, he did interview for one job that we know of in 2024 in Tampa. He did not get it. So he was fired in season 2023, sat out all 2024, and now Miami hired him as their special teams coordinator. And again, I'm not saying Craig Aukerman is going to be a horrible hire or he will do a terrible job. What I am saying, though, is based on his body of work and his resume, it's really just not that good. And good coordinators don't get fired in season and go one full year of being out of work. In the NFL, hell, a college school didn't even hire him to join their staff in some role. He was one full year out of work. Again, good coordinators don't get fired in season and then go the next season out of work. Okay, and the numbers don't lie. But here's the deal. There are two sets of numbers out there telling two very different stories. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're a smart person because you picked DolphinsTalk.com. And as I always say, just use common sense. Don't try to spin stuff. So the two sets of numbers are the PFF numbers. And if you look at the PFF numbers to start, their numbers have Craig Aukerman special teams units ranked, top 10 most years. And if that was the case, you think Tennessee would have fired him? If their numbers were accurate and Craig Aukerman has great special teams units every year and top 10, you think the Titans would have fired him in season and he would have then went one more full year without having a job? Of course not. That's why the PFF numbers are fugazi. That's why PFF sucks and you can never trust their numbers. The numbers you want to go by are Rick Gosselin's numbers because Rick breaks down special teams for a living. He is the industry standard for special teams rankings as he uses he uses 22 statistical categories to rank and come up with his conclusions. He is so much more in depth than what PFF ever does when it comes to ranking special teams. And that's why he is the standard bearer. He is the industry standard, and he is the person everyone looks to when it comes to special teams rankings. And when you look at his numbers, you get a better, accurate description of why a coach was fired in season. Okay, in that PFF, he got the number two special teams unit, but he was fired in season. That doesn't make any sense, and stuff like that. Craig Aukerman's special teams units, according to Rick Gosselin, 2018 they were ranked 16th, 2019 ranked 18th. See a trend? 2020 ranked 24th, 2021 ranked 19th, 2022 ranked 14th, and 2023 when he was fired in season, they were ranked 24th. Again, not hating, stating. Those are facts, folks. Those are facts from the industry standard, Rick Gosselin. And when you see someone whose units are ranked 24th twice, 19th, 18th, that makes sense of why someone like that's fired in season, okay? Because he just isn't very good at his job, which we kind of know something about being fans of the Dolphins with coaches. And why was he fired in season? It was coming off the heels of a loss that the Titans had at home to the Colts. And I'm just going to read what happened because, look, I thought we saw some disastrous special teams performances with Mr. Crossman. This one takes the cake from 2023 and Mr. Aukerman with the Titans. This is from a news report. The firing comes on the heels of a nightmarish afternoon in which Tennessee had a punt blocked and returned for a touchdown, then had another punt result in a fumble and an injury to their strong-legged punter, Ryan Stonehouse. The two turnovers produced 9 points for the Colts in their comeback win and forced the Titans to turn to veteran kicker Nick Folk to handle the punting in the game. Backup quarterback Ryan Tannehill had to replace the punter, who was also the holder, which then resulted in a missed extra point as well. The Titans were clinging to a 1-point lead late in the third quarter when the special teams ship ran aground. I don't even know what that means, but whatever. Indianapolis overloaded its punt block unit to the right side, freeing Nick Cross on a direct path towards Stonehouse. Cross blocked Stonehouse's punt, and linebacker Grant Stewart scooped up the loose ball, returning it 18 yards for a game-changing touchdown. So you want to know what gets you fired in season? 2 punt blocks, 1 run back for a touchdown. You get your punter hurt, and you miss an extra point because you lose your holder. And not to mention, I did see a further in-depth clip, which I'm going to share in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube here, which went more in-depth in this game. The Titans opening kickoff to the Colts. The Colts ran it back 36 yards, pretty much gave them great field position, and there were some other huge special teams meltdowns. This is why you get fired in season. And again, not hating, stating, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Also, Craig Aukerman did spend one season as the Chargers special teams coordinator in 2016. He only lasted one season before he was relieved of his duties there. So that's who Craig Aukerman is. Again, was he one of the best candidates on the market for the Dolphins? No, but it leads to a larger issue. But before I get to that larger issue, I want to talk about one thing. And I don't like to dive into the weeds on social media because it's social media. You get a bunch of crazy lunatics. Some of them, most of these people, you have no idea if they have an IQ over 4 or not. And, once news breaks, anything with the Dolphins, if they trade for this guy, sign this guy, draft this guy, hire this guy, fire this guy, everyone's got an opinion, which is fine. But you get into the people who are just, the bad faith actors and your typical grifters who anything with the Dolphins. Mind you, we haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. We have no success ever. We just missed the playoffs after making the playoffs 2 years in a row. There's not much positive stuff happening right now with the Dolphins, both in long-term history of 25 years and short-term history just the past 12 months. But you get those grifters and bad faith actors who want to spin every bit of news around the Dolphins into a positive narrative, saying, oh, this is a great move. Don't worry. Don't worry. Ignore everything I just read about how his special teams units are ranked, 18th, 24th, 19th, 24th, about that horrible game versus the Colts where he got his punter hurt, 2 punt blocks, lost the game by 3, all because special teams alone, they gave up like close to 10 points. Don't worry. And if you are going to, voice any concerns or maybe question this hire, those people are going to shout you down and make you feel small because they're bad faith actors who are pandering for engagement and they look for conflict online. And they expect you fans who are smart fans, level-headed fans, rational fans who have waited 25 years for playoff wins to just trust them and not worrying. And, ignore Miami's track record, which has not been great, again, for many years, both long-term and short-term. Ignore the track record. Ignore the years of losing, the decades of losing. Ignore everything that's happened both in the past year or two and in the past 25 years. And don't worry, because these are the same people who are going to tell you right now, don't worry about this hire of Craig Aukerman. Even though all the numbers are bad and everything's bad, don't worry. These are the same people who every year in March, when Miami loses a Robert Hunt, they lose a Christian Wilkins, they lose a Brandon Jones, they lose an Elliott, they tell you, don't worry. Why are you worried? It's only March. Don't worry. And then every year between March and April, when Miami does nothing to address the offensive line ever, and it's the same clowns that fail every year, and, the Liam Eichenbergs and Robert Jones and all those guys who are never any good, and we do nothing to help improve the offensive line, every year they tell you, don't worry. Why are you worried? What? Don't worry. It's just March and April. Don't worry about the offensive line. Fast forward, we know how it's going to play out in August, September, October, because it's the same guys who stink. But you're wrong for worrying. Why worry? And then the same people, when it comes to Tua, they ignore the injuries, they ignore his stats and his numbers and his record versus teams who have a winning record. They say, don't worry. Why are you worried about Tua? He's going to be fine. He took jiu-jitsu. He put on weight. He's going to be fine. Don't worry. And we all know it's not fine. And we all know when he plays good teams, he has his worst games. The people who always tell you not to worry are telling you today with this move, don't worry. Why are you worried about this guy? Mind you, he was a special teams coordinator 1 year with the Chargers and 5-6 years with the Tennessee Titans. Don't worry, even though it's been all failure the entire time. Don't worry. These are the same people who just tell you never worry. And, they don't have a football IQ to give an objective and fair analysis. So they live in a world where they belittle you and talk down to you for worrying or just raising fair concerns about a questionable hire like this is. Again, I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he does great. I hope I hope he's learned from all of his mistakes in his time with the Titans, his time with the Chargers, and now he becomes the best special teams corner, Mike Westhoff 2.0. I am hoping for that. I'm a Dolphins fan. I want to see him do great. But am I going to sit here with a straight face, reading off his resume? The guy was out of work last year because nobody wanted him. He was failed in season with the Titans because of a disastrous game, and that wasn't the only one. And I'm supposed to sit here with a straight face to you Miami Dolphins fans and say everything's going to be okay. I can't say that because I don't know if everything's going to be okay. This guy doesn't seem like he's a great special teams coordinator. Again, based off a sample size that's not just 1 year. It's like he's been a special teams coordinator for like 6-7 years. And it's not a lot of success here, okay? Not a lot of success. And I'm not going to be one of those bad faith actors or those grifters who are going to tell you, and talk down to you and belittle you for having a fair criticism or concern. And if you don't, and you think this guy is an improvement over Crossman, great. It's fair to have that opinion. But don't, shout down, belittle, talk down to anyone who doesn't share that opinion because you want to sort of push and pander to get likes and engagement for your shitty little podcast or your shitty little YouTube channel or your shitty little blog because you want to pass yourself off as an expert. And I'm going to tell people, don't worry, because I got to go against the grain. And I'm going to be like the voice of reason and say, don't worry, even though all the evidence says you probably should worry because this guy's resume kind of sucks. Okay? So is this guy a great coach? No, for all the reasons I've said. But I'm rooting for the guy. And, of course, he can always turn his career around, and that's what we're rooting for. But for me to say, he would be this was a good hire, it'd be disingenuous. Sorry, I can't even speak. So I'm not going to sit here and say, don't worry, or let's see how it plays out. I don't need, we've been down this road before. Again, with the offensive line, don't worry, you should worry. With free agency, they say, don't worry, you should worry. With the quarterback, it's now Tua, but the same people were wrong about Ryan Tannehill as well. They tell you, don't worry, of course you should worry. The same ones are telling you not to worry. Folks, smarten up. You're smart people. Anyone telling you not to worry, let's see how it plays out, they're just bad faith actors and grifters. But let me talk about the larger issue that shines on Miami here. And, the Miami Dolphins had an opening as special teams coordinator, and this was the guy that they got. And there's a lot of better options out there. But, and I've said it on this show many a times, on my weekly spot for the past 2 years with Zach Krantz on 560 WQAM. I've said it on that outlet a lot. No top candidates want to come to Miami. They don't want to work for Ross. They don't want to work for Grier. And they don't want to be on a staff where the head coach and Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat right now. And plus, on top of all that, they saw the way Vic Fangio was treated in Miami, which was poorly, how he was discarded last year. The players on the Dolphins ran to social media, mocked him through memes and stuff they tweeted out and put out there on social media. And who would want to come to that type of environment? It's a toxic work environment. And, Vic Fangio, all he did was leave Miami, go to Philadelphia, have the number one defense in the regular season, is now in the Super Bowl. It just goes to show you what a toxic work environment it is in Miami. So the top candidates, the top special teams coordinators who might have options between, hey, I'm talking to the Patriots who are putting together a staff and the Bears who are putting together a staff in Miami. I'm not going to Miami. Let me go to one of those other teams as they got a little bit of a runaway with the head coach not in the hot seat, and they don't treat their coaches like the way Miami treated Vic. Okay? So, Miami is the place where careers go to die if you're a coach, okay? And, there's no more proof than that than Mike McDaniel. I mean, look, I'm not, as a person, Mike's a great guy, but from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, the arrow is pointing down. He's trending in the wrong direction. We didn't finish at or above 500 this year, and we didn't make the playoffs compared to years 1 and 2 when we did. That's trending in the wrong direction. And the reason Miami got Mike McDaniel is because when they fired Brian Flores, none of the good candidates, none of the candidates with a strong resume wanted to even interview with Ross and Grier because everything that happened with Flores and because of everything that's happened the past 20 years with those two guys. Or not so much with Grier that whole time, but with Ross that whole time. So Mike McDaniel, who has never been a play caller, never been a head coach, Miami has to settle for a guy with zero experience in either because he just wants to climb up the corporate ladder. He just wants to get on the rung of a corporate ladder and be a head coach because there wasn't a line of teams knocking down Mike McDaniel's door to interview him to be an offensive coordinator, let alone a head coach. The Dolphins had to take a flyer and settle. And right now, after 3 years, I'd say it's trending in the wrong direction and not working out well. It's not like you had experienced coaches going, I got to get to Miami. That's a great situation, because it's not, and it never is. And again, not hating, stating. look, I'm a fan of this team. I get no joy in saying this stuff, but it's just the truth. And if you want proof, just look at who they hire. Tony Sperano, like nobody really wanted him. Joe Philbin, he had a couple interviews. Adam Gay said, he had a couple interviews, but not. We settle for first-time head coaches of guys who are, coordinators. Although in this case, he wasn't even a coordinator; he was a run game coordinator. And it just you don't get the strong head coach, and that means you don't get the strong assistant coaches. And the one time we did get the strong assistant coach in Vic Fangio, we ran him out of town. So it's just unfortunate because these top assistants have options, and there's been a lot of top assistants out there at special teams coordinator. Fossil, who I know just recently took a job, he's one of the better ones. And there's been some others, but they just didn't want to come to Miami. And it sounds like the Dolphins had to settle for a guy who wasn't in the league last year and got fired in the middle of 2023 or late in the 2023 season with a few games left. There was a report by Armando Salguero that the Miami Dolphins did not call Darren Rizzi about the opening. I know once Crossman was fired, fans of Dolphins were hoping and praying that they would bring back Rizzi since he's now out of work. But per Armando, the Miami Dolphins did not call. And all I have to say about that is duh. I mean, I said it for weeks on this podcast. They're not going back to Rizzi because Rizzi don't want to come here. Okay? Why? Who's going to jump on this sinking ship? Darren Rizzi is like the most respected special teams coordinator in the NFL, or one of the top 2 or 3. He's not going to go to a team, or he's not going to go to an organization where the head coach is on the hot seat and he might be out of work in a year. Not to mention, when he left Miami, he wasn't on great terms, because when he left Miami, he was on the staff and he interviewed for the head coaching job. And Chris Grier said, thanks, but no, we're going to go with Brian Flores. So when it was time for the promotion, Chris Grier did not promote Rizzi. Why would Rizzi go back and work for the guy now who didn't promote him? It makes no sense. Common sense. Again, people, common sense. It's just like with the numbers between the Goslin numbers and the PFF numbers, just common sense. Rizzi was never going to come here. And it stinks because he is one of the great special teams minds. I think Mike Westhoff is the all-time great special teams coordinator. I think Rizzi's probably second or third or fourth on that list, right behind him. He is that good. But he has much better options, and he will take one of those much better options and find a job elsewhere. He wasn't going to come back to Miami. And I know some fans go, well, why not call him? Why not make him an offer? Why not at least pick up the phone? That's not how this works, folks. It would have been pointless. It would have been a complete waste of time for everyone involved. He's not coming back. He left on bad terms. It would have been insulting to pick up the phone and call him. It would have been insulting. That's why they don't do that. These people, this isn't, working at your local supermarket. Well, I know he left. Well, let's call him back. No, this guy's got options. He's probably got millions in the bank. You don't insult him. He's not coming back. It's just a waste of time. All right, before I get to one more thing here, I want to give a quick shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also a shout out to our friends at the I Am Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great, talented, smart, handsome, and charming Carlos Hernandez. If you are part of Facebook, please be sure you are a part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, or one of the other 100 platforms we're on, including YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Please make sure you are subscribed to any outlet you're listening to us on. It's the off season. News is kind of slow. We have a few shows each week. When we get closer to free agency, we'll have shows every day. When we get in the lead up to the draft, we get closer to April, shows every day. So you're not going to want to miss that. One more thing I want to talk about here on the special teams edition of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast is, the other thing I saw a lot on social media was, which really just has me scratching my head. Well, when the Dolphins hired Butch Barry, all the fans crapped on that hire. And Butch Barry's very good. So why should we crap on this hire? This guy's probably going to be good now too. My head wants to explode. First off, yes, when Miami did hire Butch Barry, the hire was panned. And now I'm hearing Dolphins fans, and again, Butch Barry's first year, 2023, the offensive line was okay. it just wasn't as bad as it has been in like recent years. 2024 this year was like not very good at all. But I see Dolphins fans, here's the thing. If you're a fan of the Dolphins and you're trying to justify this hiring of Aukerman by relating it to the Butch Barry hiring, you can't have it both ways. Because I see that same group of Miami Dolphins fans saying, Butch Barry is this great offensive line coach. He's a miracle worker. And then in the next breath, they want to use every draft pick on the offensive line. Well, if Butch Barry's so good, why do we have to use like 3 or 4 picks on offensive linemen in this draft? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And here's why, I'm not sold on Butch Barry being a very good offensive line coach. I know that's like the narrative fans, a segment of the fans of the Miami Dolphins have put like around him, which makes zero sense to me. The only reason he's considered good is because prior to him, the 10 previous offensive line coaches only lasted 1 year in Miami, and Butch Barry has now lasted 2 years in Miami. Well, that doesn't mean he's good. And here's the proof. Butch Barry has been in Miami for 2 full seasons. I'm going to throw out some names. Tell me if they have improved under Butch Barry. Liam Eichenberg. Nope. Robert Jones. Nope. Lester Cotton. Nope. And they got rid of him early this year. Armstead was good in New Orleans before he came to Miami. He didn't need Butch. Connor Williams was good with the Cowboys before he got to Miami. He didn't need Butch. Aaron Brewer was good with the Titans before he met Butch Barry. He didn't need Butch. Robert Hunt, the 1 year he was here with Butch, he was good prior to Butch Barry getting here. So Liam, Jones, Cotton, Armstead, Connor, Hunt, Brewer, pretty much the guys who have all started the past 2 seasons. Who's improved under Butch Barry? The answer is none of them. Now, hold on. I know what you're all yelling right now with your smartphone or in your car. Don't forget Austin Jackson. Don't forget Austin Jackson. Yes, true. Austin Jackson did improve under Butch Barry. But 2 things. One, it's just one guy. So even if you want to give Butch Barry 100% of the credit for Austin Jackson becoming a quality right tackle, it's one guy out of all the names I listed who improved under Butch Barry. Okay, so let's not go nuts here. Let's not throw him a parade because one guy in 2 seasons improved. That's number one. And I'm not even sure Butch Barry is the reason Austin Jackson improved. I can make a stronger case that Austin Jackson improved because heading into 2023, Austin Jackson was going into a contract year. His 5th-year option was not picked up by Chris Grier and the Dolphins. He was set to be a free agent after the year. And for the one time in his miserable NFL career since he was drafted, Austin Jackson showed up in shape, motivated, and worked hard in practice every day, and he had a great season. Whether Butch Barry was here or not, I can make a stronger case for that than for Butch Barry being the reason Austin Jackson's good. Because, again, if Butch Barry's so good, how come we saw no improvement from Liam, Jones, Cotton, and numerous other failures on the offensive line? Okay, so if you're one of those fans who are now saying tonight here with this Craig Aukerman hiring, well, we were upset with Butch Barry and he turned out good, so this special teams coordinator must be good. That makes no fucking sense, okay? Because 1, Butch Barry ain't good, and 2, what does one have to do with the other? So, again, we all hope Craig Aukerman here has learned from his past mistakes and is a good special teams coordinator for the Dolphins. But my excitement level of this is kind of low based on, again, his resume, his track record. It's not just 1 year, 2 years. It's like 6-7 years. He's been a special teams coordinator, and not really any of them have been good. I mean, if you want to just buy into the PFF numbers, go for it. But once again, if the PFF numbers are true and he's so good, then why was he fired in season? Doesn't make any sense. So he's the Dolphins' new special teams coordinator. We can just hope for the best. One other news bit I want to mention real quick. Miami Dolphins quarterback coach Darrell Bevell interviewed for the Raiders offensive coordinator job today. Depending on who gets the Saints job, he might be interviewing for that offensive coordinator job as well. This Raider one's is kind of confusing, I'm not going to lie, because Pete Carroll fired Darrell Bevell. Fired him in Seattle. And now he's looking to give him back the same job that he fired him for. A little interesting. Don't understand why that makes sense. But again, if you're Darrell Bevell and you're offered a offensive coordinator job, you got to take it. So I would totally get it. So there's that. We'll see if Darrell Bevell is leaving to become the offensive coordinator for the Raiders or somewhere else. So that's all for today's show. Thank you all for listening. Again, please be sure to sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk, $3 a month. Trust me, it's worth it. And also check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com, for all the latest. And on all social media platforms at Dolphins Talk. Everyone have a great Tuesday evening. Have a great Wednesday. And we look forward to talking to you again real soon. And folks, don't forget, when you're out there on the roads driving around, we must put an end to highway profanity.